I think you should be ready for a long answer. Whenever you ask a PhD about a dissertation, they're like, someone wants to listen to my dissertation. We get too excited. My dissertation discusses how technologies, I specifically talk about Google Maps, to allow us to afford travel. Imagine I'm at a totally new place, how much it helps me, as well as it constrains my possibilities. And I talk about it through the examining Google Maps and on 3 sides. One is Camino de Santiago, another one is in US road trips, and the last one is South Korea. So for each of the 3 studies, what I do is I compare Google Maps to an alternative. So I show how maps are not neutral, but it's tools for establishing worldviews as much as letting people know how to get from A to B. So I do a step-by-step analysis of how they are different and discuss how Google structures knowledge.
So my whole research was developing an animated intervention targeted to Black teens regarding their mental health. I interviewed 21 adolescents to see what resources are out there? What does stigma mean to you? What does mental health mean to you? So I took that information and I said, okay, we can make a script out of this. And I want them to be a part of the script writing process. And I want them to make the concept art, the foundations behind an animation project. And this led up to an animated film/intervention called Black Jasmine. And I tested it out among Black teens, and not only do they like the intervention itself, but it's evidence-based. They're less likely to experience stigma, and they're more likely to have more intentions to seek services.
I knew I wanted to study self-care rather than thinking about it through consumption, thinking about how can we care for ourselves and one another better. COVID's left us with a lot of lack of care. So I see my research in a way of trying to respond to that lack of care in society at a number of levels. I study Black women's activism as well as sex work labor. And through the lens of care and affect, I'm making the argument that these practices are practices that allow people to sustain themselves. They're practices, that we should look at and understand in a more subtle way than perhaps thinking about the morality of things, or is it good or bad, or are they successful? How are these women, persisting in the society that's devaluing and erasing their contributions at a lot of turns? I argue that they're a form of effective labor and resistance and constitute a form of care in our late-stage capitalist moment.
For bachelor's and master's, you're learning the knowledge others have created. PhD is a process learning how to produce that knowledge, how you become the producer of what we know. And now you are not absorbing it, making it yours. Now you have to contribute, and you're learning the ways to contribute it. If you are curious about how are these knowledge produced, or if you don't think the knowledge you're craving for exists in this world yet, I think it's a great place where you can push the horizon of existing knowledge by doing your own research.
You can pursue and you can ask questions and answer questions no one else literally in the world is doing. Actually, sometimes you don't know the capabilities that you have. I was able to really pursue that and have people, scholars of different interdisciplinary backgrounds, help inform me and support me along the way. So it's just a bunch of people just making sure let's make you the best scholar you are. Let's cultivate you and make you the best person it feels like you can be.
I'm really passionate about research ethics, universities, for a number of reasons. Just the traditional research is we go, we get what we need, and then we're done. But I think that our society, where we are right now, is requiring much more than that. Academia is part of the world. There's so much going on, and we could definitely be more caring and more kind, and while still not sacrificing rigor and depth. And I think there's room for both, and I aim to demonstrate that.
I think for me, PhD was the best thing I did in my life. Also, it was the most difficult thing, the hardest thing I did in my life. PhD is very lonely because in default, you are pursuing what others are not. But the best part is there are always people willing to help you fight with that blank paper, filling it with meaningful work. So, and that camaraderie, especially at USC Annenberg, is so valuable.
I couldn't tell an 18-year-old Essence that you were going to make an essential animated film like this capacity to talk about issues that we were growing up with at the time. So it's definitely personal. Like, you know, I would do it again. Even the hard parts, I would do it again because it just made me, I feel like it made me a better person. I think so much more thoughtfully, critically, empathetically. I always say my PhD is my mom's PhD because she was so much a part of it. Right before the defense, she gave a little teary-eyed, like, I can't believe my baby made it this far. So it's very transformative for everybody.
My father's always told me that having my PhD was my destiny. So even when I was running around Santa Monica teaching Pilates, he was like, you do that, but you'll be back. I knew I was going to do my PhD, and I knew it was going to be at USC Annenberg. I just took a little bit of time to get here, but it was the perfect moment.